What's up, Pop Culture Universe? We are back with another episode review of What If. What If drops on Disney Plus every Wednesday, and we can't wait to react and review to it. I'll be one of the reactors for this episode. My name is Bogz with my girl Sol today. How are you today, Sol?
I'm doing good. I think this might be my favorite episode so far. Can't wait to talk about it with you because, man, what an episode.
It was fire, and this is episode 4. This was called "What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart Instead of His Hands," and yeah, straight up fire. This episode was for me. Crazy episode, lots of exciting stuff. Lots of stuff happened where it was our first time hearing it in the MCU, and this is the kind of level and kind of tempo that I was expecting in the whole kind of What If series. Because the stuff that it can do, that's what I always wondered. Okay, like how kind of complex can it go? How can it introduce new things? Can it, what's it going to do with all these timelines? And it all kind of got summarized in this episode. One heck of an episode. Absolutely loved it. How about you, sir?
Loved it so much. There's different implications that happen in this episode that can go for the rest of this series and in the MCU as a whole. Just so many new things and so much interesting visuals in this episode because it is Doctor Strange. So you're going to get great visuals all the time. And the animation of this show has just been top notch. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it kind of all came together this episode. Everything, the animation, the storytelling, all the characters involved, having the whole kind of original movie tie into this newer story, but it being really different as well, and moving kind of this whole kind of multiverse thing forward as well. It kind of ticked every box that we've been teased about all these Marvel TV series. So definitely a high point so far. And at this point, okay, so we're going to go through rough, kind of loose review of the episode. So at the beginning, we kind of get a loose retelling of the beginning of Doctor Strange until he gets injured. But it is slightly different as well, where you see like he is in the relationship with the other Doctor, and also the he's not the same as well. He seems to be a little softer. He seems to be in a relationship as well. Like he's quite open with his feelings with Dr. Palmer, of course, and kind of in the relationship at the point of having the accident, which obviously in the movie he's by himself. So we see a slightly different Doctor Strange. And then obviously when the crash happens, it makes you kind of as well. Just even up until the crash, the first time seeing it, it makes me want to revisit Doctor Strange the movie,
Right.
because I haven't seen it in so long. It's what other kind of references did they pull, and like what other, like how different is it, and some of the kind of there must be so many other references that they would have kind of picked up on, or the kind of lines from that movie, and which I completely missed because I haven't seen it in so long. And it is kind of underrated as well compared to the other movies, especially with the visuals and the kind of whole mythology around it. So definitely need a rewatch of that. And as the Doctor, Christine Palmer, dies, who plays his girlfriend, we kind of go through. He still goes through the motions of his grief, loss, finding himself, going to the a far off place, learning the meeting the Ancient One, learning the ways, and taking on Dormammu and everything along them lines. So he still goes through that. So this is like almost like a rite of passage. It has to occur for him to be Doctor Strange. This person has to die, or this event has to happen in this kind of universe, in this timeline. And we go through various versions of this moment because he tries to at this point in the story, he goes back in time to relive this event and try to save her. We see he tries everything. He tries not going, not taking her out, tries standing her up, tries to get her driving. She always dies at the same point. And in a kind of Groundhog Day event. And then he basically tries to fix that moment in time, and he realizes he can't. And the Ancient One explains to him that this is the catalyst of him being the Sorcerer Supreme, that this is supposed to happen and you cannot change this. And if you do try to change it, you will destroy this reality that you're in. So the Ancient One has warned him clearly and specifically not to go ahead with this, because kind of let her go, because this is supposed to happen. This is kind of written, and not supposed to be changed according to that universe. So your thoughts on the beginning of the episode and you know, opening with the whole seeing the repeat Groundhog Day thing, and then hearing the Ancient One explain, that you can't change this. This is supposed to happen, and don't change it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I love that even in a different universe, he's always meant to be Sorcerer Supreme. So I think that probably, no matter what universe we go to, that's a Doctor Strange fate one way or another to go to Camartage to learn. And if you notice too, he learns much quicker because his hands are okay. So he's able to do the circle stuff. He's able to do that, learn faster because he doesn't have the messed up hands to be able to do those. So this might be an even more powerful Doctor Strange than the one in our the sacred timeline. I like to just the subtle differences with him because he is in the relationship. So if you notice from like the original movie, he's driving like a maniac. He's wanting to get there fast. He's not using a turn signal, weaving around people. He's literally using his turn signal. He's like probably not driving the safest, but not driving the way he was in the movie. So I kind of like just like the subtle differences, and it shows that this woman really does make that much of a difference in his life and makes him a better person. So the fact that she's not there, she's gone, really does affect him. And I'm excited to see what this means for the MCU going forward, if they get able to get Rachel McAdams back, and what her role will be in future movies.
Yeah, so he's definitely less arrogant. I'd say he's still arrogant. That is a part of his character, but he seemed to be less arrogant in this universe. And also before, he does, do the whole kind of get Dr. Palmer back thing. Wong warned him, as he's done, and he's recently done the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer.
Right. That's exactly what I thought about.
This is why I want to watch the, original Doctor Strange again, because I'm sure he must have, warned him several times in that as well. So it's clearly a character trait. Like, Wong is right in every multiverse, basically. That's what I got.
Right. Always listen to Wong.
Exactly. And then we see him kind of at this point, after the Ancient One warns him, they have a bit of a standoff, and then Doctor Strange escapes. It kind of travels to some kind of realm or dimension through kind of space and time, seemingly, where he meets this Obeng character, and the Lost Books, this other dimension where he has to learn the abilities of how to change a point in time, which cannot be undone. And the power is to break a moment in time, they call it. The power required to break a moment in time by absorbing other beings' power, and just the whole kind of next few events of how it happens, and how he gets overpowered as well by obviously taking calling the beings and then taking their power. Some being like weird aliens, creatures, insects. First, well, he gets that bigger being, which overpowers him. Then the Obeng saves him. Starts absorbing then the different energies of smaller characters first, tries to take them on, and their powers and the cape and everything from that weird looking like weird creature. Like, how did that get to be a powerful character? Yeah, anyway. But just the imagery of how he takes it as well, like from the eyes and the mouth, and very quite creepy, like how he absorbs their energy. The visuals of this was really
cool too.
Yeah. And the imagery of it, and this whole time I was thinking, it just made me think of Wanda this whole time, like who is more powerful here? Like, because he's going through all this, it seemed like quite a passage of time in this place as well, meeting these other beings and characters. Wanda kind of created this whole event, this whole nexus, just because she was upset, but obviously he's grieved, and I just wonder who's more powerful. So I'm sure they'll hopefully we'll get them answers later down the line. But back to the story, and then we see the kind of beings, the different kind of beings, like dragon-looking creatures, and he's absorbing them and everything. So really wild at this point. So before we go any further, any thoughts on this kind of other dimension, this Obeng character, him absorbing these kind of beings' powers and not listening to the Ancient One, and him being warned not to do so by this Obeng character as well. And also, they seems to, when he first kind of got knocked down by that big being with the tentacles and stuff, that Obeng kind of seemed to save him. Like, how powerful is this guy? So yeah, lots to kind of see there and break down lots of interesting visuals.
So when he's going there and back in time, back to ancient times to go, he's looking for the lost texts of Cagliostro. And Cagliostro is a real guy in history, and he also went by the name Obeng. So I think that that person who was there when he was like, "It's not you, is it?" I think that was the guy that he was searching for. And so I think he is probably much more powerful than Stephen Strange. Also, that tentacle monster made me think of the monster in the first episode of What If with Peggy Carter. Yeah, and I was like, I wonder if this is the same creature. And I know back in the first episode, I said that creature reminded me of the one in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And so I'm like, is this the same one showing up now? Even if it is, this is the third time we've seen this creature. If not, this is the second time if it's the same one from the first episode. So
yeah, sorry, Karen.
I was like, that got me thinking.
For sure. And also the Watcher was awesome this episode.
And so good.
Yeah, and he has some really, really interesting lines and dialogue. And because at this point he was, just popping in the background as he does all in Reflections. Even, as at this point in the story, he's actually narrating to us, and he's, telling us that, he's on the wrong path. He's gone too far. But I can't help him. I can't get involved.
To the dark side.
Yeah. And he can't get involved. And then Strange actually turns around to see, like, who's there? Like, he's heard of, like, he can hear him and see him or feel him, in the Force, if you will. But yeah, it's really wild stuff and very well crafted. And in this, again, the visuals of the Watcher, and he can hear him. I just thought that was so cool. And
had a conversation with him too.
Right.
Which that changes things going forward, because the Watcher does not intervene, or at least he's told us that in these first 3 episodes and in this episode as well. But he kind of is a little bit, he has that conversation because Doctor Strange knows that he's there. But it's one of those, like, I can't do anything about it, but I'm here kind of thing. And so I think in future episodes, we're going to see him actually do stuff.
For sure. And then, just running off this part is where we see this, again, the tentacle creature. I think people are linking him to Shumo, I believe it's called. So the tentacles kind of gave him the last bit of power. The way he kind of absorbed it and stuff. And I thought, for some reason, it was very reminiscent of like Jafar in Aladdin. I don't know, just the way he was getting bigger and just like the way absorbing everything. And very like Disney-esque. With the animation, looked like old school, like, or like almost like Anastasia kind of animation from Disney. So the way the kind of like mystical beings behave in that kind of that animation style, like, is very reminiscent of this for me. And then we see the Cagliostro or a Ben character who's seemingly been there for such a long time. He seems to be dying. At this point, Strange advises, I can save you. I could just, pretty much do what I want with time. And then Obeng says, don't, just leave me be. And we cut back to Strange. But he's at the reflection point, kind of on Earth still. So at this point there, we see the universe kind of breaking apart, and it's revealed by the Ancient One that, by an echo of the Ancient One, that she's kind of split Strange and created 2 timelines in the same universe. So as a kind of last-ditch effort to save the reality that they're in. And as well, the visuals of all this, and just how they tell the story, like an actual comic book, like a line, like in between us, like in the middle, and you see the 2 different ones of, and the kind of visuals of the current world that they're in and how it's being destroyed. Like everything's being vaped into the air. Very, like, I thought Studio Ghibli-esque, like Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke. Like that's the same kind of. I think that's where they got some of the influence from, in terms of the world being destroyed. But seeing the Ancient One splitting splitting their kind of universe in 2, I just thought it was so interesting. So in Endgame, you kind of see her explaining how multiverses work, with the strands and everything. Right. So imagine like another strand being thrown into that one, like, because it's like yellow, right? The timeline is, and she splits off like a black strand, I imagine she splits off a yellow one in the same one. That's kind of how I envisioned it. So again, this is something new we've not heard before. Super interesting. It did take me a second or two to work out, so I just you had to relay the information back a little bit. But yeah, I thought it was super cool and a great addition to the kind of multiverse and how that works. And so there's kind of a timeline created and another one parallel to that. So yeah, it was super intriguing to hear this and very interesting, wild stuff. So how about you, Sol? So when you're hearing the kind of stuff that the Ancient One has done to create 2 Doctor Strangers to kind of save this reality.
Yeah, the fact that they're in the same timeline, because we've learned in Loki that like you do something different, it creates a branch, and so you're in a different timeline, and you can create multiple branches off of one if they're not pruned. But the fact that this should have created a branch, but it didn't. It's just another half. So I was wondering if, because they say, oh, you're not as powerful because you're only half of yourself, I wonder if that also affected the other Doctor Strange that we don't spend as much time with. Like, is he trying to do magic and not able to perform to his what he usually is because he's not at the same level? So I kind of want to see that side of it too, because they're 2 halves. I also like the fact like you have one who looks like the Doctor Strange from the Sacred Timeline MCU, and the other one, different coat. It's a darker color, darker clothes, dark eyes underneath, skinnier, kind of like you could see just evil looking. Like definitely when you see in cartoons, you're like, this is what the bad guy looks like. And it's the same exact character. So I just like the way that they animated and really just visually showed that this is Doctor Strange, but as a bad guy.
Yeah, definitely. So this actual fight as well with Strange v Strange, it was just so cool. And it happening at the point of Christine Palmer's, where she's had the accident and stuff. So that was the fixed point in time that they were he's obviously trying to change, and we also see the Dark Strange's character is super powerful at this point, clearly more powerful than the kind of original timeline Strange at this point. Well, the kind of light side time Strange. And then we see that the light side Strange obviously has a spell that kind of one gave him to but he's still being overpowered with it, although it does help absorb some of that that damage. But overall he does get overpowered by the darker Strange, and he absorbs the lighter Strange. And then
Such
at this point,
cool effects.
Yeah, and as well, I noticed the eye of the Agamotto turns red as well. I don't know what implication that has, but again, really cool visuals. They revive Christine, almost like her soul, it brings it back. And then we see how kind of ugly the Dark Strangers turn, it's some kind of weird being monster. Again, very Studio Ghibli-esque, turns into, eating these souls has turned you into some kind of beast. Which she doesn't want any part of him. She tries to escape, kind of run away almost, and it kind of shows like the dark side corrupting you. I thought it was like Palpatine-esque, how it kind of wrinkles him and everything. So and then at the same time the reality is collapsing, really dramatic at this point. And then obviously the Dark Strange is kind of holding off the reality and trying to on his last legs almost. And he calls out to the Watcher, who's kind of literally just watching their turns, and we see him kind of in a fully animated form as opposed to being a shadow in the background. So he kind of basically begs the Watcher to save his reality and save him and Christine, and the Watcher declines and says, you were warned, and he says, that basically he's not going to get involved, and you had your warning, and you can't save it now. And again, that was super interesting. I told you so. I told you he's going to step out of the shadows and come into the story. And I think this is not the last time this is going to happen. The Watcher is my favorite character in this series. The way he kind of looms over everything and he just steps kind of into frame and gets involved. I think that's so good. And yeah, he kind of explains he has to let it get destroyed, and it does so, and it turns into kind of some kind of weird crystal that kind of just has, Christine obviously dies, and then just has the Dark Strange in some kind of crystal, which is just being left at the minute. So thoughts on that and the ending? So seeing the Watcher step into the kind of step into play, and Strange turning and explaining, I've read of you in books, I've heard of you, you're a god. And I love the way he turns back and says, no, I'm not a god, because we've heard that a few times,
and neither are you.
Exactly. We've heard that a few times in the MCU where people call Thor or god or Loki god. They never actually deny it.
Mm-hmm.
But here he clearly says no, and neither are you. Yes, I love that. But yeah, how was the ending you felt on this episode?
So how I said last week that was the darkest episode so far? I think this is the darkest episode for that reason of coming into that crystal. He was trying so hard to bring Christine back, but bringing Christine back destroys that timeline. And he was told that, and he was going to do it anyways, and she still disappears. And I think he has to live for eternity in that little crystal by himself, knowing what he did. And I think that is super dark, and I think that's probably like a personal hell. And I was like, wow, this is super powerful moment right here. And that like really got me in that moment of like, imagine living in like the worst thing you've ever done, and now you have to live in this little thing by yourself, knowing that everyone you loved and care about is gone.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's so many kind of different things that shifts in here. So he done it for, his love. Obviously, he was warned not to. He knows not to. He's still trying to do it. Ancient One told him not to do it. He's almost begging the Watcher to get involved, to help him, pleading with him. He still said no and let that reality die. That's pretty dark, right?
Yeah.
So, I thought that was so good. And like I said, key moments in this episode where we saw this whole fixed moment in time thing. And I felt this is super interesting, and how many other characters have the same kind of thing or same devices that is integral to their story or into the sacred timeline. Or I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of these fixed moments, because I was trying to think of other characters' moments, fixed moments as well, like I'm sure everyone else was. But also the two timelines in one universe, love that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ancient One's whole explanation of that you can do that. And then they kind of come up head to head. That was super interesting. Again, it's nothing we've heard any of this. I was kind of waiting for the TVA to turn up for some reason until I heard her explain that. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, this is not like a split timeline. This is not a split timeline. This is the same one. So that was really cool. And then Doctor Strange absorbing the other entities, I thought was so cool. And the way he was doing it as well, from the eyes and the mouth, and being that powerful, being able to do that. And it just led me to think, okay, Wanda against this guy. That obviously we know they're gonna be in the Multiverse of Madness movie, but obviously the Spider-Man links as well. So it's all kind of coming together. It's all it's getting wild, it's getting crazy. It's such a fun episode. Overall, I'd probably 9. I'd give it a 9. This is again we do this a lot. WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki. This is my favorite episode amongst any of the TV things we've seen in the MCU. This is the most I've been invested in, excited. I was on the edge of my seat. I had to rewind some of the Watcher stuff just to catch all the dialogue, because the mystical elements, the magical elements with the MCU, the comic books. It was so good with the animation, with the love story being the heart of it as well. It was everything I was kind of hoping for and expecting in the What If series. So they absolutely knocked out the park with this one. But yeah, any kind of key standout moments for you, Sol, and please rank the episode.
I think my standout moments are the same as you. And I was thinking again too, where each person, what's their fixed moment. And I think each of them, it might be different in each universe, but they have one thing that is the fixed moment in each different universe that pops off. And I was thinking just now, I was like, wait, he was referenced in Captain America Winter Soldier. They referenced Doctor Strange when they were going to go kill off anyone who could possibly become a hero kind of thing. So I'm thinking, what if each one of those targets has a fixed moment because they're going to be a hero kind of thing. So that's now, that literally popped in my head when you were talking about that. I was like, oh, I need to go back and see what other references to what other characters in that movie, so to see like people that we might not have seen yet. But I have to agree with you. This is a 9 for me as well. This is my favorite episode of any of the TV stuff. It was so good. And this is when Sean was like, "Oh, you guys like this, but you didn't score it as high," kind of thing. I was like, I said, my 9s and my 10s are for things that wow me, and this episode wowed me. And so yeah, definitely a 9 for me.
It felt like a movie. It felt like
Yeah.
just a even I think it was a slightly longer episode than the previous ones. I think it was like 40 or 38 minutes, but it felt like a full length feature movie. Like the amount was in there, and yeah, the implication moving forward. Yeah, it jumped
Pacing was
leaps
so
and
good.
bounds. Yeah, leaps and bounds in the kind of multiverse stuff, and it's kind of I thought it was quite nice to follow. Like it wasn't too
Mhm.
complex. Even me, I've seen every MCU movie multiple times. Even with some of the Loki stuff, it is sometimes a little hard to follow with everything, in thinking back and forth. But I just felt this episode just flowed really well. The dialogue was great. The Watcher getting involved was the perfect time. And yeah, I can't wait for the next episode and where they'll go. I hope they keep this tempo, keep this
Yeah.
intrigue up. I think the second episode is really close to this because that was pretty good with, Black Panther and the kind of Guardians verse. But this was a whole new thing, which, yeah, they've set the bar really high now. Hopefully they
They
can keep it
stepped
up
up their game.
big time. Big time. But that's it, everybody. This is our review for What If, episode 4. Thanks, everyone, for watching the previous episodes. Getting really good views, so thanks for that. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out our next episode review, any trailers, reactions, reviews. Put your comments in. What are your thoughts on this episode review and any predictions moving forward? But I've been Bogz, that's been Soul, and we'll see you on the next episode review of What If.